Thank you for tuning in to the Doing Business with God podcast.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I am your host, Michi Renee.
It is Michi's passion to help you live your best life and do business God's way. Michi will be talking about entrepreneurship, manifestation, monetization, mindset, beliefs, starting and growing a business, nonprofit, or ministry, all while serving God. So welcome to My Daddy's Business. It's time for the show. It's the Doing Business with God podcast with your host, Michi Renee.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Doing Business with God podcast. I have a special guest in the house, Tarra Jackson, aka Madam Money. She is the author of the best-selling book, Financial Fornication, and newly released 4 financial languages, The Secret to Communicating About Money. Tarra is a personal finance expert and an animated international speaker. She is the host of the popular podcast, Financial Fornication with Madam Money and Friends, where she shares fun financial tips for more fun and healthier relationships with money and credit. She is also the founder of Dualpreneur, an organization that provides support services and events for entrepreneurs who have full-time or part-time jobs. Tara's extensive professional background in the financial services industry includes vice president of several financial institutions across the country, as well as interim president and CEO of an Atlanta, Georgia-based credit union. Her experience, knowledge, and witty sense of humor makes her a valued resource and favorite financial commentator for national and international media outlets such as Experian, Radio 1, Fox News, Cheddar TV, and Al Jazeera News. Tarra is a regular financial contributor for national magazines such as Black Enterprise and Upscale magazines, and also has appeared in numerous syndicated radio shows like the Ricky Smiley Morning Show and national events like the Essence Music Festival. Tarra's passion is to help her audience experience more pleasurable and enjoyable relationships with their finances through fun, interactive presentations, webinars, and keynote. Welcome to the podcast, Madam Money.
Woo woo! How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am doing good, considering COVID. Doing pretty good out here.
Yeah, these internet streets got us all tangled up.
Yeah, these streets ain't loyal, so
Let's jump right into it. Come on with it. Tell us about Tarra Jackson, aka Madam Money.
Oh man, I'm just that chick. I'm that chick that calls her that chick. Just kidding. I am a former CEO of a financial institution that's just extremely down to earth. And at some point in my life, I repented, turned from my wicked ways, and left the financial services industry as a banker and became a consumer advocate. And when I wrote the books, Financial Fornication, all of my clients were celebrities and reality TV stars, and I was watching them as they talked about who they were in relationships with, who they wanted to be in relationships with, but nobody wanted to talk about their crappy credit or the fact that they didn't really have any money. So because they used to come to credit union to borrow money, to buy stuff, to bling on TV to make it look like they had money. And so when I saw this, I had to do a self-evaluation of myself, and I realized I had a really dysfunctional relationship with money and credit. I could run a financial institution and make it grow, but I was still living paycheck. I was still having money issues. So I figured if sex can sell a cheeseburger, it can sell financial literacy. And right. So I just started talking about how I was financially promiscuous with my credit cards, multiple, don't judge me. And I had all these financial one-night stands with my credit cards and ended up with financial STDs. And them babies hurt. So I figured if I was dealing with this type of drama in my financial life, other people may have. But the unique thing is that I had cures for it. So I share the cures and I share the solutions to a lot of financially abusive relationships. I teach you how to date your financial institution and how to play the credit game. So that's the consumer advocate in me, is the tongue in cheek to get people to giggle a little bit. Because when you giggle, you're a little bit more open. You relate to it because it deals with relationships. And now we can have those crucial conversations about cash. And recently I authored another book called The Four Financial Languages to help people to learn how to communicate in the different financial languages so they would stop arguing about money. So if you are dating or married to a saver and you're a spender, you probably argue about money because you speak two different languages. So I teach people about the four dominant financial languages and how to communicate so you don't have to argue about them. I am a dualpreneur. I do consultation with a credit union, so I work for a financial institution, but I also have side businesses. And so that's why I created the organization Dualpreneur, to help people that were working that wanted to start a business, how to start the business the right way so they will not fail miserably like I did the first time. So, I have multiple enterprises as far as businesses are concerned that are now successful, and that's because I applied certain strategies that I'll be sharing in a book coming out in 2021. So that is a lot about me. Oh, I'm a single mom. My son is 24. He had to correct me. I was saying I was 47 all year, and he reminded me that I'm only 46. So I guess I'll be 46 next year. And, my favorite hangout is the bar. Don't judge me. And I have an awesome, humorous relationship with God. He has an awesome sense of humor.
Yes, he does. I have an awesome relationship with him.
You know how you have a plan and you think this is how it's going to go, and you just like running with it. And all of a sudden he's like, yeah, psych.
Right. I didn't tell you to do that. It's my mom's favorite. That's my mom's favorite word, that she always doing stuff. And God be like, I ain't tell you to do that.
That's not the way we going to do this. So,
Right. Go ahead and snatch the rug right out.
Yeah.
I ain't tell you to do that.
Exactly. Like, I've been dating a couple dudes, and that's why I'm not married, because he's like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. So, man's rejection is God's protection. And I learned to just allow him to lead me. So I avoid me disappointing myself, because that's what we do when we put these expectations out there that are not in line with what God has for us. We disappoint ourselves. So I've learned how to yield to what he has for me.
So let's talk about the unhealthy relationships we as women have with money. Talk about that.
Some of the dysfunctional relationships we have about money is, one, we practice avoidance a lot of times. When we don't understand something or it becomes overwhelming, we will avoid it. And by avoiding it, exacerbates, or it makes the problem, if you will, greater, when it could have been resolved by just paying a little bit of attention to it and resolving it. So because we have so many other things as women to deal with, family, work, children, and all of that, when finances come into play, it could be extremely overwhelming. And if it becomes too overwhelming, we can't pay our bills, we are running behind, or whatever. The most common thing that we'll do, and I am a victim of this as well, is that, or I won't say a victim, I'm a culprit of this, is avoidance. I was like, I'll deal with that tomorrow, or I'll deal with that later. I can't deal with that right now. So that's one of the dysfunctions. If we don't deal with something when it's small, it becomes very big, and it then becomes very difficult to manage and, expensive to fix in the long run. The other thing is that we don't give ourselves enough time to really focus on ourselves. Sometimes we're so busy focusing on everyone else that we put our own oxygen mask on first, and that's financially too, right? So we're so busy giving family money, giving children money, spending on this, doing all this, that we forget that we have to save, invest, and give to ourselves first, after God, but we have to do that for ourselves first so that we can continue to support our families. If we give everything to everyone else, when it comes time that when we need something, we don't have anything. And those people that we give to may or may not be able to give back, but that's not why we give. So it's very important that we learn how to put our own financial oxygen mask on first.
Absolutely. I can absolutely relate to that. I am a mother as well. I have 3 kids, 26, and the twins are 18. And so it just always seems like, not so much now, but especially when they were all younger, everybody needs something all the time.
Right.
And, my favorite saying is, okay, today's the day I got to pull a rabbit, so it's like finding money that you don't have. So what are the 4 languages of spenders? I think that's what you called it.
Well, it's the 4 financial languages. So the 4 financial languages are saving, spending, investing, and giving, right? So everyone has a dominant financial language. language. Now, we could be fiscally bilingual. More than likely we speak, spending and giving, or, spending and investing, you know what I mean? Because I find a lot of people say, well, I speak all of them. Well, you may be fiscally bilingual, but your dominant financial language is usually what's going to rule when times get tough or when times get really, really good, right? So once you identify what your dominant financial language is, that's going to kind of control how you communicate about money and how you need to be communicated to about money. So, for example, I'm a spender. That's my dominant financial language. I've learned how to speak savings and investing and giving so that I can speak it when it serves me best. But my innate dominant, what do I want to do when I get excited or I get some money? I want to go out to the bar. I want to go spend some money. Don't judge me. You know what I mean? Because we're chasing a transaction. The transaction is what increases our serotonin levels, So whether it's $1 or $1 million, we're always going to chase the transaction. And that's proven by you have some spenders that will do retail therapy because they're depressed or whatever, and they'll go out and shop and they'll feel better. But there's a lot of people, and I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter what your vice is. If you're a spender, you're a spender. People just have different vices. So for example, this one lady, she says, well, I'm not a spender. I just love shoes. And I'm like, look, you go into your closet and you have shoes that you've never worn. You may love the shoes, but you've never gone in and admired them and pulled them out to look at it. You just bought it and then put them in your closet. So you love the transaction. So if you have things in your closet that still have the tags on it that you've never wore, the clothing was the vice. It was the transaction that made you feel good, right? So it's the same thing with savers, right? Savers, they need safety, security, and control. And when their savings account gets below a certain threshold, they're going to freak the hell out. If there is money taken out of their account that they are not aware of or nobody asked them, they will shut it down. They will transfer the money. They will hide the money. And then if anybody asks them for money, they're going to be broke for the rest of their life. You got $5? No, girl, I ain't got no money. And they sitting on $2 million, That's what they're going to do. Now, the investors, they chase the return on investment. They love putting money somewhere and then it grows. Now, they're risk takers, so they understand that if they put money somewhere or invest it, they could lose it all. But their whole thought process, I'll just invest more and then I'll win. And so savers and investors are two totally different people, right? So that's why my sister and my brother-in-law argue about money, because she's a saver and he's an investor. He won't invest money in this, and she's afraid that he's going to lose all their money. So she starts hoarding the cash and hiding the cash. And becoming the wealth warden. And he's like, Tarra, I'm not trying to, invest it all, but we need to invest so it can grow. So, if you're an investor, you invest in businesses or you invest in the stock market, real estate or whatever, you're chasing the return on investment. You love the thrill and the excitement of the investing. And then the last one is giving. So my givers are so eclectic and beautiful that they innately speak at least two financial languages, right? Because a giver, their whole thought process is, how can I help? They're a philanthropist at heart.
That's me.
Right. So, but a giver that can give money is probably also a saver. That's why they have the money to give. If the giver gives gifts and buys stuff all the time, they don't buy anything for themselves. They just buy stuff to give stuff away. They're probably a spender as well. And if a giver loves to invest in businesses or love to invest in people or whatever, they're probably also an investor. That's like your angel investors. So those are the four dominant financial languages. The only thing I have to say about the givers is don't forget to give to yourself. Put on that financial mask on first. It's okay to give to the world, but you gotta make sure you give to yourself first. So there's that.
I can say that I was probably guilty of not giving to myself first and giving to everybody, because my primary love language is gifts. So therefore, I'm, giving to all kinds of organizations or whatever, but I'm also buying things and gifts for people because that's my primary love language. So that's how I show people that I love them is, I buy stuff.
Beautiful thing. And that's the only thing about givers. I will celebrate your heart. And that's what I tell people all the time. Never tell a giver to not give. You're telling them not to be themselves. That's just rude. So you celebrate their heart to give. We just have to remind you that you have to give to yourself so that you can give to other people. Because at some point, if you give everything away, way, you won't be able to live your heart. And that's what's going to hurt you the most, is that, oh my God, I don't have anything to give. So you never want to be in that position to do that. So you always have to keep yourself replenished. And just like with the love languages, because your language is gifts, doesn't mean everybody's language is gifts. So
I know.
they express their love for you the same way. So it's the same thing with the finances. Just because you're a giver or you're a saver or you're an investor or a spender doesn't mean your partner is going to deal with money, think about money, or speak about money the same way as you. So in relationships, we have to not only respect each other's love languages, but we have to respect each other's financial languages so we can communicate better and help each other reach our collective goal.
We hope that you are enjoying this episode. If you would like to be a guest, check the show notes for all the details. Let's get back to the Doing Business with God podcast with Michi Renee.
In a perfect ideal world, what would you say those with the 4 languages, financial languages, which ones tend to go work better together?
There isn't really, it really depends on the person. You know what I mean? And their openness to respect and learn how to communicate with the other party. You know what I'm saying? Because I have couples where they're savers and spenders, and they've learned the techniques of how to communicate with each other, and they work very well together. And I have some that are, savers and savers. You would think that they would work well together because they're both savers, but they still argue about certain things because they're not investing for their future, or they're not doing certain things. So they're almost keeping each other stagnant financially because they're so scared, or they need that safety, security, and control. I had 2 savers that actually divorced because of money. Can you believe that?
Wow.
They divorced because of money. And it wasn't that they didn't have enough money. It wasn't that at all. It's just that their financial goals and what they wanted for their households and their lifestyle were completely different. So I would have to say that it's the ones who, one, understand their own financial language and respect their own financial language, and also learn their partner's financial language and respect their financial language and learn how to speak it. So that's why I'm fiscally bilingual. That's why I learned how to fluently speak in all 4 languages. Needed to work for me when it serves me, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm in a room full of real estate investors or full of investors, I have to understand their jargon, because investors speak in jargon. They will speak in all this financial jargon and then look at you if you don't know what they're talking about, So I needed to learn that jargon. I needed to understand what they were talking about so that I can have a conversation with them. And even if I didn't understand, I would know enough to be able to ask the right question. If I'm in a room full of savers, I need to respect that they need safety, security, control. And so if I wanted to, challenge them in certain ways, there's ways to do that without negatively triggering them. And I talk about that in the book, 4 Financial Languages, that every language has a positive and a negative trigger. So for example, if a saver says budget to a spender, the spender is going to shut down, because when we hear budget, we hear diet, die, deprivation, I can't, no, and all these negatives, right? So if a saver says, hey, let's talk about our spending plan, that spender will be more open, because we can spend on savings, we can spend on investing, and we can spend on giving. And that kind of makes us feel better, because again, we're chasing the transaction. So it's all in a matter of how you do it. So, which ones work well together? It's the ones that respect each other's languages and learn how to communicate in each other's language.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I've always wanted to know, where did you get the name Madam Money? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I got it from this little young lady who was about 80 years old at a Kojic conference. And it was around the time when I first published Financial Fornication. I thought I was going to be ostracized from all the churches. I just thought they were going to damn me to hell, because I wrote a book called Financial Fornication, and they loved it. They ate it up, because, everybody needs to be delivered from financial fornication. You know what I mean? Once I was able to spin it, I got a lot of requests to speak at churches. And so I was requested to speak at a Kojic conference in Alabama, and I was talking about the book Financial Fornication. And after I was finished, people came up to talk to me. She was so cute. This little young lady, I call her a young lady because she just had a spirit of a little young lady. She was about 80 something years old. And she said, so you're the Madam of Money. I guess I should call you Madam Money. And I said, I guess you should. And I kind of liked it. And I told somebody to create a logo for it and kind of stole it. I don't know where this little young lady is anymore, but thank you. for dubbing me Madam Money.
That goes along with your tongue-in-cheek of financial fornication.
Absolutely. Do that forever. Like, I will use relationships in every situation to talk when it deals with money and business, because people they understand relationships. And you have to think, WWJD, what would Jesus do? Jesus did that throughout the time in the Bible he was there, right? He used analogies. He took some complex subjects, found topics that people relate to, and used those topics to compare the two. And that's why people understood what he was saying, right? And so all I'm doing is just taking the principles that Jesus did, finding analogies